Well, we got everything back off, and I got everything lined back up, went back to my laser, set it up with my jig, got the whole car centered up and everything, just to double check everything, make sure it was like it's supposed to be. And so now I'm cutting out these pockets for my Quadralink arms. These pockets here are what they go into. You can see here the arms go up in here, and they will bolt to the rear come on, brain. Rear end. They actually bolt right in here for the uppers. So that's what these are going to do. I got a clearance for those to go up in there. So I've already scribed my lines. I used the patterns that DSC gave me. Scribed my cutout lines here, cutout lines over there. Mine were a little different because when I took these out, you can see here, I went ahead and took those seatbelt mounts out. Well, they use their template to go off the seatbelt mounts from these factory little brackets. Well, I welded mine down inside the frame and not in the same exact location that they welded theirs. So I actually just centered them in the frame. And so I had to do a little different measuring and stuff to make sure I got this where it's supposed to be. But anyway, I'm pretty happy with where it is, and I'm going to go ahead and cut those out. And so, yeah, there you go. All right, we got them in there, just sitting in there, and they look pretty good. Well, at least this one does, looks real good. Actually, I'm happy with both of them, but I got some more work to do. My floor pan here is not welded to this yet, so I just want to get these holes cut and get that set in there. Maybe mock up my rear end and all that, but yeah, they're pretty nice fit. They even saw this little deal here coming up and made a little indentation for that, so that worked out nice. It kind of gives you an idea that that's where that's supposed to be. This side same. I could probably do a little bit more adjustment on this one. Needs to be probably tapped that way just a little bit more and straightened up, but it's pretty close. Pretty close. So I'm going to do some more measuring. I'll probably figure out from some other areas and measure out and make sure these are square and like they're supposed to be, and then of course these get welded to this frame rail. So on both sides that flange comes way out here. You probably saw that earlier. You can see there it comes out, and so it goes to both sides of that. So basically it'll be welded all the way through here, and then I'll seam this closed all the way up and around like I did that there. So yeah, so I got done today. The other day, I don't know if I showed it, I went ahead and popped all the holes for this. Not going to put it in just yet. Again, you can see I went ahead and staggered all of them just for strength and all that. And what else? What else? Went and made sure all this is just right. You can see this will actually could be welded together once that's pinched down. That'll be all one nice smooth transition there. Just details, trying to make them all right. What else? So for now, I've got that set up where I'm happy with it for the most part. Like I said, I'll do a couple more measurements to make sure it's all in there square and all that. I thought about lowering this down, putting the rear end under there, running my upper links into those holes and just sliding something through there, a bolt or something, just to kind of see where it was going to sit and how square it looked, and running my track bar mount across and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to have to do that. There's mounts that weld up inside there for the top of my shocks, I believe, or my coil springs, and so I'll have to get my rear end set up and everything and get all that measured out where those go, and so I'll be doing that. I don't know, not sure, but I have to, what I was going to say, I've got to take the torque boxes off, so I have to take all this stuff apart again because I need to cut these torque boxes out because of everything else that had, you know, like these here, had to do all this underneath here, take these off, and because it was bare metal underneath. Well, you know that's bare metal too. Well, there's areas for water to get in there, you know, and yeah, I could seam seal that, but it's bare metal underneath. So you know it is. If everything else was, it just doesn't get in there when they do what they're doing. So I'm gonna have to take those off, sandblast, prime, all that, and weld those back on like I did here. Hopefully that is it. There's these braces across here. They're inside though, so they should never get wet, shouldn't. Hopefully. Well, whether I'll take those off or not, I don't know yet, but so far I think that's probably going to be the last thing I have to take off here. I don't know about these. It's just like, when does it end? You know what I mean? It's like, I almost wish they had sent me this stuff in pieces so that I could have done it right from the start. You know what I mean? I could have, I don't know. But anyway, these are tack welded on there, pulled up from the inside. So I could cut these tacks and pull that down and see. That wouldn't be a big deal. So I may do that. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4 tacks holding that on. So I probably could do that and see if there's bare metal underneath that. Get those prepped up too. But I think the main thing is these torque boxes, getting them cleaned up and prepped inside and all that kind of stuff. So that's probably what I'll do next, which means I got to blow this thing apart again. And so what I noticed when I put these in here and setting them in, these holes are not horizontal, and it doesn't look like these are vertical. And so I called DSC to find out if they're supposed to be pointing, you know, these are supposed to be pointing up a little bit, or if that's a normal thing or whatever. And they came back to me with no, they should be horizontal and vertical and, you know, square and the whole thing. So obviously I have an issue that I need to deal with, and how I'm going to deal with that. I think at this point is what I've done is went and bought some 9/16 round rod that'll fit in these holes. I hope. I haven't tested it yet, but hopefully it'll fit in those holes. And if they do, I'm going to put them on one plane all the way through to the other side. So it'll be a 3 or 4 foot bar that runs through and connects. Well, here's the issue. As you can see, that hump isn't going to allow that. So what I need to do is clamp these down, get them as close as I can, and then cut me a couple of holes or cut a slice out of that, which I don't think I'm going to slice it. I think I'm going to cut a hole and slide the bar through this hole here, out the other side, through the middle, and then line up over there, get everything lined up like it needs to be, and figure out what I need to do to get these square and level. And that may involve taking the floor completely off and figuring out if the frame rails, you know, if it's even possible with the frame rails. I may have to cut part of the flange on the frame rail to get it to level out, or whatever. Whatever has to happen, because this rear needs to be square. The Quadralink system needs to be square with everything. Everything needs to be square. So that's kind of what I'm working on. I'd hope that those would have just popped right in place, no problem, and you weld them down and you're done. But it doesn't seem to be that that's the way this car is going to have it. This car seems to want to teach me a lot of things, and that's good. I'm here to learn. So every step of this I'm learning, you know, and it's teaching me. It seems like, to long story short, it seems like I have to do everything the hard way. And that's how we learn, is by the hard way, right? I mean, anything, what's the saying? Nothing worth having is easy, or something like that. I don't know what the exact saying is, but yeah, you get the general sense. Nothing on this project up to this point has seemed to be easy for me. And maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm getting in my own way. But I'm learning, and I'm trying to stay positive. Again, taking one piece at a time, one little project at a time. We've got these finished. Went ahead and welded this shut and clean. I need to grind that off a little bit. All that's done. So yeah, we're making progress. It's just not in light speed. But you know, it just is. It just is. So that's pretty much it for now. I'm going to get that bar, make sure it'll fit, and figure out, you know, clamp these down, get them as close as I can. Try to figure out to get that so I don't have to, you know, because I'll end up welding those holes back. You know, keep the piece. I may use a hole saw or something like that. Not real sure yet how I'll cut those holes so that bar will slide through there and fit, but I'll get these as close to the factory spot that they wanted them as I can, and then go from there. So we'll see. All right, so to give you an idea what I'm doing, I showed you the first time that these weren't parallel. So I went ahead and moved my floor pan up, and you can see what I've got going here. So I'm trying to make sure my frame rails, these ears, because, you know, I welded these, didn't pull up or move a little bit or whatever. So I've got to get the frame rails parallel for this to be parallel. And so I got to figure out if I need these flanges to come up a little bit or go down a little bit, just to get these to actually sit like they need to sit, which is exactly like they are now. You can see the bar turns freely, pulls back and forth, and you can see there that it's perfectly in the bubble. So so that's where it needs to stay. However, it's not clamped down. So I've got to clamp it. When I clamp it, things move and that bar gets tighter. So I've got to figure out exactly, I need to keep it like it is, basically. So it's square, parallel, vertical, horizontal, everything's the way it needs to be. Then I can set this back down on top of it and go from there. But basically, once I get this set where it needs to be, I'll probably go ahead and mark it, make my holes, and go from there. Because I need it to stay like that. I will, like I said, cut some holes through that and run the bar back through once this is on this, but this is just flat sheet metal, so I mean, crushing it down is not going to be that big a deal. And I'll drill holes through this, that way I go straight from this flange here goes directly to the frame, and it's not just to that sheet metal. So, and you can see here a little bit of a gap there, so in pulling that down, I'll either have to move this up a little bit to meet it, or something. I'm gonna have to tweak around on this a bit. But if you guys ever want to see what it looks like with just your frame, and you can see there how it will weld, that inner deal will weld, and this will weld here, and then you got your pocket. But I need to move this around and get it squared straight and make sure everything's good. So yeah, I think that's our problem right now, is those flanges are just not completely parallel, which is not allowing those to clamp down, because when they clamp on one side, it wants to kick up to one direction. Actually, when you clamp it this way, obviously it goes up. So I've got to make it where it stops that. So that's what I'm going to work on. See ya. Alright, there it is. Pretty happy with that. This bar slides in and out freely. We got clamped down a few places. It's nice and sturdy. It's square. So I think I'm going to give that a go. What I had to do is grind some of these welds that I had. Some of the, were a little fat on top, so I had to grind some of those down. Should have done that ahead of time, but anyway, I did that. And so that seemed to help, and I had to manipulate these just a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit to get them to where they would sit right. So now they're pretty much where they need to be. I measured on the rear end here. You go from actually inside to inside, it's 27, and outside to outside is 32. So I measured inside to inside on these, 27 from inside here to inside the other side, and then on the outside of these, 32. So we're looking pretty good, squared up. I was just sitting here thinking, I wonder if I could weld that to the frame and then set this down on top of that, but I think that will cause some problems later on with other things, so I need to do it like it's supposed to be done. So I'm going to nix that idea. But I will have to pop holes in this, that way I can weld it directly to the frame. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's probably all I'll get done for today. It's getting late. There's a lot of measuring and a lot of stuff. You can see I ran a brace in here. That way when I was beating on the sides and stuff and everything, wasn't moving around. Of course I've got this locked down. You probably know there's nuts inside there. So yeah, well, it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but it's progress, and I'm pretty happy with that. Hopefully I can get that back off, and when I pop this back down on there, it'll sandwich down like it's supposed to and stay happy. So, all right.